You think Thanksgiving morning meant fancy pancakes for black families in the 1970s? Think again. These breakfasts came from grandmothers who turned humble ingredients into feasts that carried warmth and survival. Here are 30 cheap Thanksgiving breakfasts only your black grandparents knew. Sweet potato coffee cake with cinnamon drizzle was the Thanksgiving morning centerpiece that brought families together before the turkey touched the oven. Grandmothers mashed leftover sweet potatoes into thick batter seasoned with nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, then baked it in cast-iron pans that created golden, crispy bottoms. The drizzle came from powdered sugar mixed with milk and vanilla, poured over while warm so it soaked into every crevice. This wasn't fancy bakery cake, but something born from thrift using plentiful fall sweet potatoes. Families gathered around kitchen tables, cutting thick slices while coffee percolated. Children fought over corner pieces where the drizzle pooled. The cake stayed moist through the weekend. It represented more than food, it showed how grandmothers stretched resources while making mornings special. Today's brunches serve croissants, but they can't touch the memory of sweet potato coffee cake warming cold November mornings. Cornmeal mush with sorghum butter filled stomachs and provided sustained energy for the long cooking day ahead. The mush was made by slowly cooking coarse cornmeal in water or milk until it thickened into smooth porridge, stirred constantly to prevent lumps. Sorghum butter came from beating softened butter with dark sorghum syrup until it turned golden and spreadable, creating sweetness without expensive sugar. Served hot in bowls with generous dollops melting on top, this breakfast cost pennies but delivered warmth. In rural homes where money was tight but corn was abundant, this dish appeared regularly on Thanksgiving morning. Grandmothers understood that starting with hot food meant children would be patient while the feast was prepared. The cornmeal's earthy flavor balanced perfectly with sorghum's deep molasses notes. Families ate in shifts, with the cook eating last. This wasn't deprivation, but resourcefulness transformed into tradition. Fried apple hand pies made from dough scraps turned yesterday's pie making into today's breakfast feast. After preparing pies for dinner, grandmother saved every scrap of dough, rolling them thin and filling them with spiced apples cooked down with sugar and cinnamon. The small pockets were sealed tight, then fried in hot lard until golden brown and crispy outside while the filling bubbled inside. Children woke to the smell of frying dough and sweet apples. These hand pies were portable, perfect for eating while helping with preparations. The cost was nearly nothing since they used scraps that would otherwise be discarded, proving waste not wisdom. Families made dozens, stacking them on plates covered with towels to stay warm. Adults paired them with strong black coffee while children drank milk. Fried apple hand pies weren't about elegance, but making joy from leftovers. They represented creativity that turned scarcity into celebration. Grits with cheese and fried eggs became Thanksgiving morning fuel that prepared families for hours of cooking and welcoming relatives. The grits were cooked low and slow, stirred patiently until creamy, then mixed with sharp cheddar that melted into golden richness. Eggs fried in bacon grease created crispy edges and runny yolks that mixed with the grits like natural gravy. This combination delivered protein and energy in portions generous enough to last through morning chaos. In Black Southern households, grits weren't just breakfast, but foundation food connecting families to their agricultural roots. Grandmothers seasoned them with salt, pepper, and butter. The cheese added calcium while eggs provided protein when meat was saved for dinner. Children scraped their bowls clean. Teenagers ate double portions before being sent on errands. Grits with cheese and fried eggs represented practical wisdom of feeding families well on limited budgets. Leftover cornbread soaked in buttermilk and sweetened with molasses used what remained from Wednesday's supper, transforming it into Thursday morning comfort. Crumbled cornbread filled bowls, then cold buttermilk was poured over until the bread softened and absorbed the tangy liquid. Dark molasses drizzled on top provided sweetness that balanced the buttermilk's sour bite. This breakfast cost virtually nothing since it repurposed yesterday's bread and used staples every household kept. Grandmothers understood that nothing could be wasted when resources were limited. Children initially resisted the unusual combination, but learned to love its tangy sweetness. Adults appreciated how the simple bowl provided energy and nostalgia. The breakfast was especially common where buttermilk came from churning butter and molasses was cheaper than refined sugar. Leftover cornbread and buttermilk proved yesterday's food could become today's treasure. Homemade sausage patties made from pork scraps and sage filled Thanksgiving kitchens with aromas announcing the holiday had arrived. Grandmothers ground leftover pork with seasonings, forming small patties that fried up crispy and savory. These weren't store-bought links, but homemade creations using every part of the pig, mixed with dried sage, black pepper, red pepper flakes, and salt. The patties sizzled in cast-iron skillets, their fat rendering out to create crispy edges while interiors stayed juicy. Served alongside eggs or grits, they provided protein-sustaining families through morning preparations. Making sausage from scratch meant controlling ingredients and stretching meat further than store-bought allowed. Children watched grandmothers work, learning techniques passed down through generations. The spices were measured by hand, creating unique family flavors. These patties appeared at Thanksgiving because holiday butchering provided fresh pork scraps, perfect for grinding. Fried cornmeal hoe cakes with apple butter connected families to their agricultural heritage and survival traditions. The hoe cakes were mixed from cornmeal, water, and salt, then fried on hot griddles until golden brown with crispy edges. Apple butter made from fall apples cooked down with spices provided sweetness without expensive jam. This breakfast appeared on Thanksgiving because both cornmeal and apples were fall harvest products. Grandmothers made dozens of hoe cakes, stacking them high and keeping them warm under kitchen towels. The name itself carried history, referencing when field workers cooked cornmeal cakes on hoes over open fires. Children spread apple butter thick, enjoying the sweet tart flavor against earthy corn. Adults paired them with coffee, appreciating how the simple combination provided energy. Hoe cakes cost almost nothing but delivered satisfaction. They represented ingenuity of turning basic staples into something worth celebrating. Scrambled eggs with onions and peppers cooked in bacon grease created Thanksgiving meals that were colorful, flavorful, and economical. Fresh eggs were beaten until frothy, then poured into skillets where bacon had just been fried, leaving behind precious drippings. Diced onions and bell peppers, often saved from preparing dinner vegetables, were added directly as the eggs cooked. The vegetables softened while adding sweetness and texture. This breakfast used ingredients already in the kitchen for dinner preparations, preventing additional expense. Grandmothers cooked in large cast-iron skillets, making enough to feed 10 or more people. The bacon grease added richness and savory depth that butter couldn't match. Children picked out the peppers but ate the eggs eagerly. Adults appreciated the protein and vegetables, knowing the breakfast would sustain them through hours of cooking. Scrambled eggs with onions and peppers proved simple ingredients could create satisfaction. Biscuits with sorghum syrup and butter were Thanksgiving morning luxury made affordable through grandmother's baking skills and pantry staples. The biscuits were made from scratch using flour, lard, buttermilk, and baking powder, rolled out and cut with drinking glasses before being baked until golden. Sorghum syrup, cheaper than maple and more flavorful than corn syrup, was drizzled generously over split biscuits slathered with butter. The combination created flavors that felt indulgent, though the cost was minimal. Black families treasured sorghum because it connected them to Southern farming traditions and provided sweetness during hard times. Grandmothers kept large tins of sorghum in pantries, knowing it would last months. Thanksgiving morning biscuits were made fresh, still warm when served. Children ate them eagerly, syrup dripping down their chins. Adults savored them slowly, appreciating the craftsmanship required for perfect biscuits. Fried salt pork with gravy over toast was Thanksgiving morning protein using preserved meat to create richness families couldn't afford fresh. Salt pork, the preserved fatback that lasted months without refrigeration, was sliced thin and fried until crispy in cast-iron skillets. The rendered fat was used to make gravy by adding flour and milk, creating creamy sauce poured over toasted bread. This breakfast provided essential calories and fat, helping families survive cold mornings before central heating. The salt pork was economical because it used pig parts preserved through salting to last through seasons. Grandmothers kept slabs in cool places, slicing off pieces as needed. The gravy stretched the meat to feed larger groups, with toast soaking up every drop. Children learned to appreciate this combination. Adults valued how the breakfast delivered energy without requiring fresh meat purchases. Salt pork with gravy was honest nourishment, proving preserved foods could create satisfaction. Molasses milk poured over crumbled biscuits was Thanksgiving morning warmth that turned yesterday's baking into today's comfort food. Leftover biscuits were crumbled into bowls, then warm milk sweetened with Blackstrap molasses was poured over until everything softened. The molasses provided iron and minerals, while the milk added calcium and protein. This breakfast cost almost nothing since it used leftover biscuits and household staples. Children loved the sweetness, even though molasses had stronger flavor than sugar. Adults appreciated how the simple bowl provided energy and fullness. The combination was especially common in homes where refined sugar was expensive but molasses was affordable. Grandmothers made this when resources were tight, knowing it would satisfy hungry stomachs. Molasses milk over biscuits proved that leftovers combined with creativity could become something genuinely comforting. Fried potato cakes made from leftover mashed potatoes became Thanksgiving morning crispy treats that children begged for. Grandmothers mixed cold mashed potatoes with beaten eggs, chopped onions, and flour, forming patties that fried until golden brown and crusty. The outside turned crispy while the inside stayed soft and fluffy. These cakes used potatoes left from testing recipes or from earlier preparations. Served with butter or gravy, they provided filling breakfast that cost virtually nothing. In Black households where waste was never acceptable, fried potato cakes represented culinary intelligence. Children ate them hot off the skillet, burning their fingers but too eager to wait. Adults enjoyed them with coffee, appreciating how yesterday's side dish became today's featured breakfast. The cakes could be made quickly, freeing grandmothers to focus on dinner. Fried potato cakes proved resourcefulness could transform leftovers. Rice pudding with raisins and nutmeg turned leftover rice into Thanksgiving morning sweetness that felt like dessert before the day started. Cold rice was mixed with milk, eggs, sugar, and plump raisins, then baked slowly until creamy and set. Nutmeg grated fresh over the top provided warm spice that made kitchens smell like celebration. This breakfast repurposed rice left from earlier meals, ensuring nothing was wasted. The pudding could be served warm or cold, making it versatile for busy mornings. Families treasured it because it tasted indulgent while using ingredients already on hand. Children picked out the raisins if they didn't like them, but adults savored every spoonful. The custard-like texture created comfort, while the sweetness provided energy. Rice pudding with raisins wasn't just thrifty cooking, but genuine deliciousness that happened to use leftovers. Pan-fried liver mush with mustard on toast was Thanksgiving morning protein using preserved organ meat to create hearty breakfast. Liver mush, that Appalachian creation combining pork liver with cornmeal and spices, was sliced and fried until the exterior crisped while the interior stayed creamy. Served on toasted bread with sharp mustard, it provided sustaining nutrition. This breakfast appeared in Black households influenced by Appalachian foodways, where cultures overlapped. The liver mush was economical because organ meats were cheaper than muscle meat but packed with nutrients. Grandmothers fried it quickly, creating breakfast that lasted through morning preparations. Children acquired the taste gradually. Adults valued how the small serving provided significant protein and energy. Pan-fried liver mush with mustard represented the blending of regional traditions and practical wisdom of using every part of available animals. Buttermilk pancakes with cane syrup were Thanksgiving morning treats that made children feel special before the elaborate dinner. The pancakes were made from scratch using buttermilk that created tender, fluffy texture with slightly tangy flavor. Cane syrup, cheaper and more accessible than maple syrup in the South, was poured generously over stacks of golden cakes. This breakfast felt indulgent, even though the ingredients were basic pantry staples. Grandmothers made large batches, flipping pancakes on hot griddles while managing other tasks. The buttermilk's acidity reacted with baking soda, creating lightness that made each bite melt in the mouth. Children counted how many pancakes they ate, competing with siblings. Adults enjoyed them slowly, appreciating the care that went into making breakfast from scratch. Buttermilk pancakes with cane syrup represented balance between thrift and celebration. Leftover greens mixed with scrambled eggs created Thanksgiving morning plates combining vegetables with protein economically. Collard greens or turnip greens from earlier cooking were chopped and stirred directly into beaten eggs, creating green-flecked scrambles. The greens added earthiness and nutrition while the eggs provided richness. This breakfast cost nothing extra since it used greens already cooked. Grandmothers understood that combining leftovers with fresh eggs made both components more interesting. The Potlikker from the greens seasoned the eggs naturally. Children might have resisted plain leftover greens but accepted them willingly when mixed with eggs. Adults appreciated the nutritional wisdom of combining vegetables with protein. Leftover greens with scrambled eggs proved that creative combinations could make yesterday's food feel new and intentional. Fried hominy with onions and butter became Thanksgiving morning comfort that connected families to Native American and African culinary traditions. Canned hominy, those large white corn kernels processed with lye, were drained and fried in butter with sliced onions until everything turned golden. The hominy developed crispy exteriors while staying soft inside, and the onions caramelized into sweetness. This breakfast was filling, affordable, and quick to prepare. Hominy represented the indigenous knowledge that African Americans adopted and adapted, creating dishes honoring multiple heritage streams. The corn's substantial texture provided satisfaction. Children enjoyed the mild flavor and interesting texture. Adults valued how the dish provided lasting energy without requiring much time or money. Fried hominy with onions proved that simple preparation could honor complex cultural histories. Baked cheese grits casserole prepared the night before allowed grandmothers to focus on Thanksgiving dinner while breakfast took care of itself. Cooked grits were mixed with eggs, sharp cheddar cheese, butter, and milk, then poured into baking dishes and refrigerated overnight. Thanksgiving morning, the casserole baked until set and golden, filling kitchens with savory aromas. This breakfast could feed large groups with minimal morning effort. The eggs and cheese provided protein while the grits delivered comforting carbohydrates. Families cut squares and served them hot, sometimes with hot sauce. The casserole represented forward-thinking meal planning. It could be prepared when time allowed, then baked when needed. Children loved the cheesy richness while adults appreciated the practicality. Baked cheese grits casserole proved planning ahead created stress-free Thanksgiving mornings. Canned salmon patties with scrambled eggs provided Thanksgiving morning seafood when fresh fish wasn't available or affordable. Canned salmon was mixed with breadcrumbs, beaten eggs, and chopped onions, formed into patties and fried until crispy. Served alongside scrambled eggs, this breakfast offered double protein. The salmon patties cost little since canned fish was shelf-stable and economical. In Black households where Friday fish traditions remained strong, having seafood on Thanksgiving morning felt appropriate. The crispy coating contrasted with soft eggs, creating textural variety. Children picked at the salmon bones if any remained. Adults appreciated how the canned fish provided omega-3 nutrition without requiring fresh market trips. Canned salmon patties with eggs represented practical protein solutions that honored cultural food preferences while respecting limited budgets. Leftover sweet potato pie filling spread on toast became Thanksgiving morning sweetness that used every bit of holiday preparation. When grandmothers made sweet potato pies for dinner, extra filling often remained in the mixing bowl. Rather than waste it, the spiced sweet potato mixture was spread thick on toasted bread, creating breakfast that tasted like dessert. The filling contained eggs, milk, sugar, and warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, making it nutritious as well as delicious. Children loved this unexpected treat, feeling like they were getting away with eating pie for breakfast. Adults enjoyed the creative repurposing, appreciating how nothing was wasted. The sweet potatoes provided vitamins and fiber while the toast offered substance and texture. This breakfast cost nothing extra since it used ingredients already prepared for the day's feast. Leftover sweet potato pie filling on toast represented the ultimate waste-not wisdom, showing how grandmothers viewed every ingredient as precious. Fried cabbage with fatback was Thanksgiving morning vegetables that provided fiber and vitamins alongside rich pork flavor. Fresh cabbage was shredded and cooked slowly in cast-iron skillets with sliced fatback until the cabbage wilted and absorbed the pork's smoky richness. The fatback rendered its fat, coating every strand of cabbage with savory goodness. This breakfast was economical because cabbage was cheap and plentiful during fall, while fatback provided flavoring from preserved pork. Grandmothers cooked this when resources were tight but nutrition was still needed. The cabbage softened but retained slight texture, creating comfort without being mushy. Children sometimes resisted vegetables at breakfast but ate this willingly because of the bacon-like flavor. Adults valued how the dish provided greens without feeling like health food. Fried cabbage with fatback represented the wisdom of making vegetables appealing through fat and flavor. Leftover ham biscuits made from holiday ham scraps became Thanksgiving morning sandwiches that children grabbed before running outside. Small pieces of ham left from trimming the holiday roast were diced and stuffed into split biscuits, sometimes with butter or mustard spread inside. These portable breakfasts could be eaten with one hand, making them perfect for active mornings. The ham provided protein and salt that woke up taste buds, while the biscuits offered satisfying bread that filled stomachs. Grandmothers made dozens of biscuits the day before, knowing they could be repurposed throughout the holiday. Children appreciated the convenience and familiar flavors. Adults valued how the scraps that might have been discarded became proper breakfast, proving nothing was too small. Leftover ham biscuits showed the thrift that defined Black Southern cooking, demonstrating how even small scraps deserved respect and could become meals families enjoyed. Oatmeal sweetened with brown sugar and butter was Thanksgiving morning warmth that stuck to ribs and provided lasting energy. The oatmeal was cooked slowly with water or milk until thick and creamy, then sweetened with brown sugar that melted into caramel sweetness. A pat of butter stirred and added richness. This breakfast was economical because oats were cheap, filling, and lasted through cold mornings. In Black households where children needed fuel before the day's activities, oatmeal provided complex carbohydrates that released energy slowly. Grandmothers cooked large pots, serving bowls to everyone gathered around the table. Children might have preferred sweet treats but learned to appreciate oatmeal's comforting warmth. Adults valued how the simple bowl kept hunger at bay for hours. Oatmeal with brown sugar and butter represented practical nutrition that didn't require expensive ingredients but still tasted good. Bacon drippings gravy over day-old cornbread was Thanksgiving morning thrift that transformed yesterday's bread into today's satisfying meal. Bacon grease saved from frying was heated in skillets. Flour was whisked in to create roux, then milk was added to make creamy gravy. This savory sauce was poured generously over crumbled day-old cornbread that soaked it up like a sponge. The result was filling, flavorful, and cost virtually nothing. Grandmothers never threw away bacon drippings, storing them in jars to use for cooking and flavoring. The gravy provided fat and calories needed during cold months, while the cornbread offered substance. Children ate this without complaint, enjoying the rich flavors. Adults appreciated the ingenuity of making leftovers feel intentional. Bacon drippings gravy over cornbread proved that even the simplest ingredients could create satisfaction. Fried apples with cinnamon served alongside breakfast meats created Thanksgiving morning sweetness that balanced savory plates. Fresh apples were sliced thin and fried in butter with brown sugar and cinnamon until they softened and caramelized. The apples turned golden and sweet, their natural flavor intensified by the spices. Served beside eggs or sausage, they provided fruit that felt like indulgence. This dish appeared on Thanksgiving because fall apples were plentiful and affordable. Grandmothers prepared them quickly, knowing the sweet, savory combination would please everyone. Children loved the sugary apples, eating them eagerly. Adults appreciated how the fruit added variety without requiring much effort. Fried apples with cinnamon represented the Southern tradition of balancing meals with both sweet and savory elements, creating satisfaction through contrast that made every plate more interesting. Leftover dressing fried into patties became Thanksgiving morning transformation, that gave new life to yesterday's carefully prepared side dish that might otherwise have gone to waste. Cornbread dressing left from testing recipes was formed into palm-sized patties and fried in butter until crusty outside and soft inside. The herbs, onions, and celery in the dressing provided complex savory flavor, while frying added golden crust that made them irresistible to both children and adults alike. These patties could be eaten with eggs or alone, providing filling breakfast that satisfied without being heavy or overwhelming. Grandmothers valued this technique because it used food that might otherwise go stale, showing the waste not philosophy that guided their kitchens every single day without exception. Children enjoyed the crispy exterior and familiar flavors that reminded them of holiday dinners. Adults appreciated how the patties felt special and intentional rather than like simple leftovers. Cheese toast made under the broiler was Thanksgiving morning indulgence that felt fancy despite its incredible simplicity and minimal ingredients that anyone could afford. Sliced bread was topped generously with butter and sharp cheddar cheese, then placed under the broiler until the cheese melted, bubbled, and turned golden brown at the edges, creating visual appeal. The toast emerged hot and crispy with cheese that stretched dramatically when pulled apart, delighting children who watched with fascination. This breakfast required minimal effort but delivered maximum satisfaction, making it perfect for busy Thanksgiving mornings when time was precious and attention divided. In Black households where cheese was valued but not always abundant throughout the year, cheese toast represented a small luxury that didn't break the already tight budget. Children loved watching the cheese melt through the oven window, mesmerized by the transformation happening before their eyes. Sliced tomatoes with salt and pepper on buttered toast became Thanksgiving morning freshness that brightened heavy breakfast plates with simple elegance and thoughtful care. Ripe tomatoes from late harvest or final market purchases were sliced thick and layered carefully on buttered toast, then seasoned simply with coarse salt and freshly ground black pepper that enhanced natural flavor. The tomato's juice soaked into the bread, while the butter added richness that balanced the acidity perfectly, creating harmony on the plate. This breakfast provided vitamins and moisture, balancing richer dishes like sausage and eggs that otherwise dominated morning tables with their heaviness. Grandmothers included it when they wanted something light and refreshing before the heavy dinner that would come later in the day. Children might have preferred sweeter options initially, but learned to appreciate fresh vegetables as proper breakfast food worth enjoying. Canned biscuits with jelly were Thanksgiving morning convenience that gave grandmothers precious time to focus on more complex preparations for the elaborate feast that would feed extended family. Store-bought refrigerated biscuits were baked quickly according to simple package directions and served warm with homemade or store-bought jelly spread generously on top for sweetness. This breakfast wasn't homemade from scratch, but still provided warm bread and sweetness that satisfied morning hunger effectively and completely. In modern Black households where time was precious and multiple dishes demanded attention simultaneously throughout the busy morning, canned biscuits represented acceptable shortcuts that didn't compromise quality or tradition significantly. Children didn't know or care that the biscuits came from a cardboard tube rather than grandmother's skilled hands. They just enjoyed warm bread with sweet jelly that made them happy and content. Cocoa made with milk and sugar was Thanksgiving morning warmth in a cup that comforted children and adults alike on cold November days that marked the beginning of the holiday season. Cocoa powder was mixed carefully with sugar and a little hot water to form smooth paste without lumps. Then heated milk was added gradually until the drink reached perfect temperature and richness that satisfied completely. This wasn't fancy hot chocolate with marshmallows and whipped cream, but simple cocoa that warmed from the inside out, providing comfort and energy for the busy day ahead. Families served it on cold November mornings, knowing the sweet warmth would start the day right and lift spirits before the busy preparations began in earnest. Children cradled their cups carefully, sipping slowly to make the treat last as long as possible before returning to their play or assigned chores. Country sausage patties with cane syrup were a sweet and savory breakfast that carried the flavor of Southern tradition. Grandparents often made sausage from scratch or bought it fresh, shaping it into patties with practiced hands. The patties sizzled in the skillet, filling the house with a smell that meant the day was off to a strong start. Once cooked, they were served alongside cane syrup, thick and dark, ready for dipping or drizzling. The combination of salty sausage and sweet syrup created a harmony that felt indulgent even when the ingredients were simple. It stuck to your ribs, kept you full, and tasted like a morning wrapped in warmth. Cane syrup was cheaper and easier to find than maple syrup, but it had a bold flavor all its own. Families passed down the preference across generations, pairing it with biscuits, sausage, and sometimes even eggs. Country sausage patties with cane syrup were more than breakfast. They were the memory of Sunday mornings, crowded tables, and laughter rising like steam from the skillet. Poached eggs on toast were breakfast elegance in a world that rarely had time for it. Water simmered just below boiling, and eggs were lowered gently, their whites curling around the yolks like soft silk. When lifted out and set on buttered toast, they gleamed, tender, trembling, and perfect. A sprinkle of salt and pepper was all it needed. It was a dish that made even a modest kitchen feel refined. The first cut of the knife released a golden stream that soaked into the bread, rich and warm. This breakfast carried a sense of calm, the quiet kind that came before a day's labor. Grandparents who made poached eggs treated it like a ritual, never rushed, always patient. It was proof that even in lean times, beauty could live on the breakfast plate. Poached eggs on toast weren't about luxury. They were about intention, about giving the morning the dignity it deserved. Homemade apple butter toast was a breakfast that stretched the fruits of summer into the long months of winter. Families would cook apples down with spices until they formed a thick, sweet spread, preserving it in jars for the cold seasons. Spread over stale bread, biscuits, or cornbread, apple butter transformed plain staples into something comforting. It was a way of saving harvests, ensuring that fruit could be enjoyed long after the orchards were bare. Apple butter toast was often served to children before school, giving them a sense of sweetness and strength in the mornings. Adults valued it for its practicality, as a single jar could last weeks and provide flavor to otherwise bland meals. It was not just a spread, but a memory of orchards, harvest work, and the determination to make food last. Apple butter toast became a symbol of both survival and warmth, offering families a taste of sweetness during hard times. Blackstrap molasses porridge was strong, bitter, and full of life. Grandparents stirred it thick over a slow flame, blending cornmeal, milk, and a spoonful of molasses until it darkened like caramel. The taste was deep, sweet with a bite of iron, a tonic for tired bones and empty cupboards. It was the kind of breakfast that gave strength more than comfort, a reminder that food could heal as much as it could fill. The steam rose slow and sweet, wrapping the room in the scent of perseverance. Each spoonful was medicine disguised as sustenance, a ritual that kept hearts and hands working through the hardest mornings. Some mornings it was thinned with water, other times thick enough to hold a spoon upright. Grandparents ate it quietly, knowing it would carry them through the day. It was survival served in a bowl, humble but powerful, like endurance made edible. Collard green and onion hash gave leafy greens a starring role, turning a traditional dinner side into a savory breakfast companion. Fresh collard greens were sliced thin and quickly sautéed with sweet onions, a little garlic, and a splash of vegetable broth until tender yet vibrant. The result was a smoky, nutrient-rich hash that paired beautifully with eggs, grits, or cornbread. Some families added diced potatoes for extra heartiness, while others seasoned with a pinch of red pepper flakes to wake up the taste buds. This dish reflected a deep appreciation for garden vegetables and the ingenuity of African-American cooks who brought dinner flavors to the morning table. Collard green and onion hash provided iron, vitamins, and a satisfying warmth that lasted through long days. Its quick preparation and bold taste made it a weekday favorite, while its connection to Southern tradition made it feel timeless, proving that breakfast could be as wholesome and flavorful as any evening meal. Salt pork gravy over bread was one of those breakfasts created from necessity, yet it tasted like something that belonged in a country diner. Grandparents would fry slices of salt pork until the fat rendered out and the meat crisped. releasing a savory aroma that meant a hearty meal was on the way. The drippings were whisked with flour and milk to create a thick, salty gravy that clung to the spoon, rich and filling despite its humble ingredients. Poured over toast or biscuits, it transformed simple bread into something warm and deeply satisfying. This was a breakfast made for long days and empty pockets, a way to stretch flavor as far as it could go. Children did not think about thrift. They just knew the gravy tasted good and made the morning feel special. The saltiness, the creaminess, and the soft bread soaking up every drop created a combination that lingered in both taste and memory. It was the kind of meal that carried families through tough times and still managed to feel generous. Even today, people who grew up with salt pork gravy remember it with a fondness that nothing else can quite match. Corn fritters with syrup were the morning's golden reward for those who knew how to turn scraps into sweetness. Leftover corn or cornmeal batter was mixed with milk, sugar, and a touch of salt, then spooned into a hot skillet where it puffed and browned into tender cakes. The air filled with the smell of butter and corn, sweet and comforting all at once. Once stacked on a plate, a drizzle of syrup sealed the deal. Sticky, glossy, irresistible. The first bite had a little crisp from the edges and a soft heart that melted on the tongue. Fritters like these were both breakfast and memory, made by grandparents who never threw a thing away. They were perfect with coffee, even better with laughter, and best when shared. No one called them fancy, but they felt that way. Proof that love and creativity could make anything shine. Hog jowl and eggs was a breakfast that appeared especially around holidays, but its flavor and memory carried into everyday life. Hog jowl, a fatty cut of pork, was cheap and easy to find, especially in rural southern communities. Sliced thin and fried in skillets, it released rich fat that flavored the eggs cooked alongside it. Families treasured this dish when it appeared, because it added luxury to otherwise plain meals. It symbolized celebration, but it also reflected practicality, since hog jowl was inexpensive compared to other pork cuts. During the Civil Rights era, it fueled mornings with sustenance and comfort, giving families strength for long days ahead. Hog jowl and eggs represented both tradition and resilience, showing how households could enjoy moments of abundance even when times were lean. The dish was not only food, but a reminder of family gatherings, warmth, and the power of making the most of overlooked cuts. Red-eye ham and coffee gravy provided a bold, bracing start to the morning with a flavor that lingered long after breakfast was done. Thick slices of country-cured ham were seared in a heavy skillet until their edges browned and their fat rendered into a savory base. Into that sizzling pan went black coffee, which deglazed the salty bits and created a thin, smoky gravy. The sharp bitterness of coffee balanced the ham's rich saltiness, producing a sauce both surprising and addictive. Poured over warm biscuits or spooned onto grits, the gravy soaked in and carried a gentle caffeine kick that woke up the senses. Families across the South prized this dish for its simplicity and strength, a reminder of farm mornings when nothing went to waste. Red-eye ham and coffee gravy reflected the ingenuity of African-American cooks who transformed pantry basics into something unforgettable. A breakfast that spoke of resilience and tradition with every deep, savory bite. Rice and fatback gravy turned scraps into satisfaction. The fatback sizzled first, crisping into deep flavor as the grease melted down. Grandparents added flour, then water, whisking until the gravy thickened and darkened to perfection. Poured over rice, it became a meal that was cheap but felt rich. The salt from the fatback gave life to every grain, the smell strong enough to bring everyone to the kitchen. It was the kind of breakfast that didn't need talking, just eating, slow and thankful. It stretched what little there was, filling the air with warmth and the stomach with peace. Every spoonful told a story of survival through skill and patience. Sometimes the gravy was made with leftover drippings from the night before, deepened with onion or pepper if they had it. Grandparents said the secret was in the stirring, slow, steady, and full of intention. Each bite was a memory of endurance, a reminder that flavor was born from effort, not wealth. Fried potatoes and onions, or home fries as many called them, were the true breakfast of yesterday's leftovers. Cold potatoes from dinner were sliced thin and tossed in a skillet with sizzling butter or lard. Onions followed, their sweetness blooming as they browned. The two cooked together until the edges crisped and the smell filled the kitchen with comfort. Salt, pepper, maybe a pinch of paprika. That was all they needed. Each forkful was smoky and soft, full of the flavor that only time and care could give. It was food for early risers and late sleepers alike, eaten from chipped plates at wooden tables. Home fries were the definition of resourcefulness. Nothing wasted. Everything transformed. Served with eggs or just on their own, they carried the quiet satisfaction of a meal made from yesterday's effort. In the hum of the morning, that skillet was both memory and promise. Fried chicken necks for breakfast were a testament to how nothing was wasted in older kitchens, especially in families that understood the value of every part of the bird. Chicken necks were seasoned, dredged, and fried just like larger cuts, producing crisp skin and tender meat that pulled away easily. Grandparents cooked them with a practiced hand, turning a frugal piece of meat into a flavorful start to the morning. Served alongside biscuits, grits, or even eaten alone, they tasted rich, savory, and far more satisfying than their humble appearance suggested. For children, it was a breakfast full of flavor and adventure, a reminder that good food did not have to be fancy or expensive. Fried chicken necks were a celebration of resourcefulness, tradition, and respect for the animal that fed the family. Onion and potato hash cakes were one of those breakfasts that always felt hearty, even without meat. Potatoes and onions were grated, mixed with flour or cornmeal, and fried into crisp patties that could be eaten plain or with hot sauce if available. The dish was cheap, easy to prepare, and could stretch across several plates, making it ideal for large households. It was often made in the early mornings before children headed to school or adults to long shifts at work. The taste was simple but filling, a combination of flavors that became closely tied to daily life in tough years. Families leaned on it not only for its thrift, but for the comfort it gave in the face of uncertainty. Onion and potato hash cakes fueled countless mornings of determination, carrying people through struggles outside the kitchen. They became a dish remembered not just for their flavor, but for their role in sustaining courage and community. Fried fish and grits made weekends feel like a holiday, even when money was short. The fish came from local rivers, catfish, perch, or whiting, caught with care and cleaned at dawn. Grandparents seasoned the fillets with salt, pepper, and cornmeal before dropping them into hot grease. The sizzle filled the air, mingling with laughter and the bubbling sound of grits cooking nearby. Those grits, thick and creamy, waited patiently for the fish to finish. When both came together on the plate, it was magic. Crispy, tender fish resting beside buttery grits that tasted like the earth itself. Sometimes hot sauce joined the mix, or a slice of white bread to catch every crumb. It was a meal of pride and purpose, proof that even poverty could hold celebration. The river provided the food, the kitchen turned it into love. Fried fish and grits were a reminder that wealth wasn't always counted in dollars. It was measured in moments shared around a steaming plate. Country sausage and red pepper gravy turned ordinary biscuits into a feast, combining smoky pork with the sweetness of peppers and onions. Sausage browned slowly in a heavy skillet, releasing drippings that formed the base of a creamy gravy thickened with flour and milk. Strips of red bell pepper and chopped onions simmered in the mixture, lending a vibrant color and a subtle sweetness that balanced the savory richness. Poured over split biscuits or spooned onto grits, the gravy soaked into every layer, ensuring each bite was flavorful and filling. In African American kitchens of the 1970s, this dish represented comfort and abundance, a way to stretch a small amount of meat into a meal for the entire family. Some cooks added a touch of crushed red pepper for gentle heat, while others served sliced tomatoes alongside for freshness. Country sausage and red pepper gravy brought together bold taste and home-style satisfaction, making mornings feel special even on the busiest days. Banana bread pudding cups were one of the most clever ways grandparents reused stale bread, turning dryness into softness and waste into warmth. They mashed ripe bananas into the bread with milk, sugar, and a bit of spice if it was available, folding everything together until the mixture became thick and custard-like, scooped into small baking dishes or muffin tins. The cups baked into soft, fragrant servings that filled the entire kitchen with the smell of banana and browned bread. It was breakfast that tasted like dessert, but no one ever complained. The bananas added sweetness and moisture, stretching the ingredients into something filling and gentle on the stomach. Grandparents made these cups because they could not bear to throw out bread and because they knew how to turn limitations into something delicious. Children loved the warm centers and the slightly crisp tops, not realizing the whole breakfast was built from leftovers. Banana bread pudding cups were a quiet victory in the kitchen, a reminder that thrift could still bring joy. Which cheap Thanksgiving breakfast would you bring back to your table? Drop it in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe so we can keep uncovering the forgotten foods that fed our grandparents through the hardest and happiest times with strength, love, and resilience.